Hello everybody, welcome to episode 10 of the Farscape Rewatch podcast. It's me, Can't Wear Hats, as usual, and joining me is Red Nightmare.
Hey, I'm back!
Yeah, what do you mean you're back? You didn't go anywhere.
That's true. I sat in this chair all week waiting for this. It's my entire life.
But yes, we're back for episode 10, and this episode is called They've Got a Secret. And we'll be talking about... And yeah, we'll be discussing the episode and what happens in it. And if you remember, we just came off a bit of a sort of ranty episode.
Yeah.
DNA Mad Scientist. Hopefully...
It was quite a disarming episode, let's put it like that.
Get out.
Sorry.
But,
Not sorry.
I think this episode should be less rant-inducing.
A little bit of rant at the end.
Okay.
Mostly involved with last week.
All right, fair enough. It's still not gone. It still keeps happening.
It's a ghost that hovers over us.
Well, let's kick things off then with They've Got a Secret. So we start out with Aaron and John. Aaron is on John's shoulders, trying to fix or remove a Peacekeeper comm enhancer, and the rest of the crew are going through Moya looking for bits of Peacekeeper tech to take out.
Yeah, because basically they have no idea how much is still in Moya. There's no record keeping, obviously.
Yeah.
So they need to keep checking, keep making sure that there's nothing that could endanger them.
Yeah, and you remember that previously we've seen, obviously we had the control collar in the first episode, and then later we had the Peacekeeper beacon that they took out, but there's still plenty of stuff left. And Dargo is complaining, of course, because he thinks this is, grunt work, and the DRDs could be doing it. Pilot just says, well, no, the DRDs have plenty of other things to do.
Yeah.
Make yourself useful.
But, I'll give you 2 DRDs to help.
It's like, 2?
I'm like, take what you can get, Dargo, seriously.
Yeah. After last week, you're bloody lucky to get 2 DRDs.
I was gonna say.
It's just like, no, figure it out. But anyway, Dargo enters into there's a little tunnel in the wall, and there's some kind of device. But he's trying to communicate with Pilot, but he's going in and out. The signal's not getting through properly.
So he just starts pulling wires.
Yeah.
This is Dargo tech support. It's not working. Let's start pulling out shit and see what happens.
Well, Pilot actually tries to tell him, like, be careful what you pull, because one of them is connected to the propulsion subs.
And he electrocutes himself.
Yeah.
And this kicks off the entire episode of when people are hearing static voices over the comms. I'm like, come on, you can fill in the blanks here, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting the important words.
Or you could at least just not act on a half-understood message.
Yes, that too.
Anyway. Also, this whole intro sequence, my thought throughout the whole thing was, so this is the party being like, I check for traps. And some of them are better at it than others.
Yes.
Surprisingly, the barbarian is not very good. And accidentally rips some wires out, and then gets shot down one of Moya's internal sort of compartments, or it's like a long corridor, but it's going straight down. Yeah. And he finds another bit of Peacekeeper tech, like what he calls a Peacekeeper shield.
And again, he does the exact same thing.
Yeah,
just starts smashing it.
And just like, come on, Dargo.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, Dargo, you're an idiot.
And yeah, he smashes into it. Some stuff sprays out onto him, and then he gets shot further down the tube.
Yeah, he gets covered in this stuff. This is going to be relevant at the end of the episode.
Yes. But yeah, he fires down the tube and out of the ship.
Out of the space.
Just, there's a CG shot of... It's a little bit of... one of the few CG shots we've seen so far that I'm not quite...
It's hilarious enough that I'll accept it.
It's a little corny in that you see Moya, and then you just see Dargo come out of it flailing, just like, whoa, arms going left and right. It looks a little bit corny.
So stupid, and I love it.
But, good job, Dargo. Good job.
And that's where we get the opening sequence.
Yeah, and that's like your hook for the episode. It's like, Darko spaced himself. Good job.
Idiot.
But yeah, we come back from the opening titles, and Erin collects him in her prowler. So, there you go, that's fine. But apparently he was out there for half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour.
Yeah, but Luxon...
Frozen stiff. Because it's cold in space, right?
Well... yeah. Anyway.
I think this is the first time where they are actively saying that space is actually cold.
Yeah. So they bring him back inside, but he's unconscious, not fully dead. But it turns out that actually Luxons can survive in a vacuum for a quarter of an hour, unless they are revived soon after. So they can survive for longer, but they have to be forcibly revived. So apparently they can survive for 15 minutes with no help.
Oh, okay, so they wake up on their own, and otherwise you need to wake him up.
And John tries beating on his chest, because apparently that's all he remembers about Luxon first aid. And Zan and Aaron are like, what are you doing? Stop that.
I thought he was actually trying to restart his heart.
Well, yeah, he was trying to, but it was or do something. But
physiology doesn't work like that, John. Not all species have the same method of restarting a heart.
Yeah, so Zan injects Dargo with some stuff in the back of his neck, and Dargo comes to just about, but he's still very dazed, very confused, because he calls Zan different name. He calls her Lolan.
Yeah.
And he has no idea what actually happened, and it falls unconscious again.
Thanks for your help, Dargo.
And then Pilot comes over the comm, says he's got odd readings from Moya's system. Something else is going on.
Yeah, because he sounds a bit weird.
Yeah, Pilot sounds like he's uncomfortable to some degree.
Yeah.
And Zan finds a piece of debris on Dargo's body. And so... that clearly came from the stuff that was injected onto him when he was shot out into space. So now Aaron and Crichton have to figure out what happened to Dargo, because he doesn't remember, and Pilot didn't have a fix on him when he got blown out into space, so they go to his last known location.
Yes.
And then it turns out Pilot says the DRDs are not responding.
And Pilot, at this point, actually, the discomfort on Pilot's face, one eye twitching a little bit, beautifully done with the puppets.
Yeah, he's very clearly in quite a lot of pain now, but he's trying not to show it. He's, trying to pretend that everything is okay.
Or at least trying to soldier on.
Yes. So something is very clearly wrong with Moya and Pilot. And further to that, Crichton notices, now the air smells stale. And the DRDs are actually fixing up the hole that Dargo went through. Yeah,
we see that. John and Aaron don't.
Yeah, they don't see that.
They're basically just sealing up the hole.
And Pilot says, there aren't any DRDs in the area. And then one turns around and shoots them with some glue.
Super glue. Like, uh-oh. And she stumbles, resting her hand on the ground. That also gets...
squirted.
Yeah. Yes, let's call it that. Squirted.
And apparently it's just completely stuck there. But also in this scene we have a bit of a discussion about Moya's kind of position of service as a living ship.
As a beast of burden in some ways.
Yeah, because Crichton is still getting used to being on board a living ship, and he makes the comparison to Aaron of horses, which he says are a beast of burden. And she says, well, you enslave them. He says, well, no, we don't. Okay, yeah, we enslave them.
I like this conversation and being like, but we love them. So you love what you enslave. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It's like when it comes down to it, that is what we do with horses. Basically. And with a lot of species, actually.
Domestication, as it's otherwise known.
Yes.
I guess. But yeah, he's trying to make that comparison, and it seems that Moya is not quite in the same place. Certainly by the peacekeepers, she's enslaved, but they clearly don't actually care for them at all. They just enslave the leviathans and cause them discomfort, and they're standing over them with whips, metaphorically.
Yeah, I think that's the most fair comparison.
So yeah, but that's when everything gets they get into a sticky situation.
Now you get to go out.
Yes. Well, I guess that's that over.
Get back here, we still have an episode to finish.
Damn it. Alright, so yeah, they've been stuck to the floor.
And John goes back to Zahn with part of the DRD, because he stopped the DRD from also spraying her face, I guess.
Yeah.
He comes back there, and to show Zan, like, okay, this is what happened. Can you figure out some cure? And I love that Aaron is, during this entire time, shouting at John over the intercom, being like, God damn it, get back here!
I love that.
What's taking you so long? She has no patience.
She has no chill.
Nope.
Also, before Crichton comes into the room where Zan is working, we see that she's laid Dargo out on what is some kind of bed or table and is doing a full body scan of him with a scanner in her hand, and it's apparently not working as well as usual, but we have the 3D kind of hologram in like a cubicle of Dargo's body scan of his like internals and stuff, which is a neat effect.
I like that.
And then as soon as John comes in and everything, and the camera has to move through it, it's turned off. Because, yes, Zan has been trying to figure out what's wrong with Dargo and what is wrong in general. Mm-hmm. And Zan analyzes the debris or stuff that Crichton brought with him. And they notice that so you have two pieces of debris. You have the bits that were on Dargo and the bits that were covering the stuff John brought back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're identical, which they really shouldn't be. They're identical genetically and uniform, which that doesn't make sense if they're debris. They should be different sizes or different shapes.
Complete shrapnel, basically.
Again, something is up beyond the obvious. But Crichton gets back to Aaron with a solution that Zan made and will dissolve the glue. But apparently... Apparently it's strong enough to also eat through Aaron's hands as well.
So they need to take their time. Be careful only to put it on the glue.
Yeah. I like that Aaron is very clearly frustrated, and like John is just being very gentle with the little thing and is
trying to remain calm with the angry peacekeeper right next to him.
They manage to loosen her hand sufficiently and get it off. So Zan has done, and John have done some kind of analysis, and they've come to a conclusion that it must be a biomechanoid virus.
Specifically designed to attack Moya, because apparently Moya is biomechanoid.
Yeah, which I guess is halfway between biological and mechanical. I guess that's the idea.
That's how I read it as well.
And a biomechanoid virus will only affect another biomechanoid. It won't affect biological organisms, so that's why the crew is fine, apart from Dargo, but we don't know that that's related. But they think it was triggered by Dargo, accessing that hatch.
Yeah, and releasing all that goop.
Yeah, but Crichton said, well, if it's released that, then it could be in the air generators, it could be throughout the ship or everything, but...
It could be why the air is currently going a bit stale.
Yeah. So Zan helps Dargo back to his room, and Dargo is still convinced that she's Lolan, whoever that is, but he confesses how much that he loves her and will see them together in the future. Yeah, something's not right with him. Like he's experiencing things that aren't actually happening right now. Yeah, and seems to be mostly physically okay, but it's some kind of mental break of some kind. And so Zan is asking, well, who is Lolan? Who are you talking about? And gets very upset.
He starts sobbing. Wonderful. May I just say, wonderful ugly sob here. Like,
there's more of this later in the episode, but the acting from Anthony Simcoe as Dargo in this episode is really, it's really good, and he displays a big range of emotions that we haven't typically seen from Dargo.
No, we usually only see anger and frustration in Dargo, and in this case we see a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more, I guess, vulnerability, because he's crying and he's very clearly distraught. Meanwhile, Crichton and Aaron are sat down, I think, in the mess hall, having a chat with each other about, well, first of all, how is Moya's immune system going to respond to the virus? And Aaron says, well, obviously it'll start fighting back. And then they go into a discussion about, again, a difference between Peacekeeper worlds and Earth because John wants to know, how do peacekeepers deal with disease?
Yeah, how do they prevent themselves from getting STDs, space transmitted diseases?
It's like that's the second time he's done something like.
I love that one. It's nice. Like, sorry, what? Oh, I see what you did there, John. Clever.
Yeah, but Aaron says, well, they're all born and live on ships, so which are controlled environments. So when they're on the ships, they don't get any diseases. It's all very carefully regulated to make sure that nothing goes wrong. But when they go outside, when they go to a deployment to, say, a planet or a station or somewhere else, they'll get inoculation.
Yeah.
And so John says, well, so you guys don't have disease, and they don't.
And I like that John at this point says, like, you have absolutely no idea how advanced that sounds to me. And she's smugly like, no, I think I do. She's actually having fun with this. But John isn't.
No, because he says back, no, you really don't, because then he describes how much disease and death there is on Earth, and how it ravages millions of people.
Crops.
Yeah, and crops and animals and it's just but the peacekeepers don't have that. For all their horrible military leanings, they don't have disease.
Yeah, and even the diseases that do pop up, apparently their scientists are quite good at just figuring out a medicine that just stops the growth of it, making sure it doesn't affect those people. And like, okay, the biologist in me says that the way she describes it doesn't exactly work. Because if they're in a controlled environment, then that would mean that there are literally no pathogens.
Yeah.
So the inoculations wouldn't technically work because you need a functioning immune system for inoculations to work. So if your immune systems don't actually get anything trained in a way, I mean, it might work in theory, but it sounds a bit implausible to me.
I mean, they are also on a living ship in the middle of space.
Yeah, that is fair enough. Again,
I know what you mean.
This is the bit where fundamentals of biology, as I know them, break down.
Yeah. Still, it's not quite as bad as, I don't know, let's pick a random episode of Star Trek where people devolve into spiders and Neanderthal people, but
yes.
So it's got that going for it, at least.
That is true, actually. Again, I don't know peacekeeper physiology, so that might actually make the difference here.
There you go. But after explaining all this, Aaron is surprised that, John wants to go back there. Well, it sounds awful. It sounds horrible. Yeah.
Again, sorry, Aaron. Wouldn't you like to go back, despite everybody wanting to kill you?
Yeah.
Same difference?
I mean, where I thought we were going with this was that John was going to he was going to be very sentimental and just say, but it's home. Which would have been, okay, I get that. What he actually says is, well, you don't have chocolate.
I mean, it's the same sentence.
It's the same sentence, but it's presented in the way only John can do.
I like that line.
It's like, yeah, you don't have chocolate, though. That's really... He's all about the chocolate.
I mean, would you be?
I guess so. Point? Yeah, sure. Listen, if I can't get a goddamn Mars bar... What is space even for?
Exactly. You're in space, goddammit. You have to have a Mars bar. It's in the name.
Or a Milky Way. Or a galaxy. Anything. There's a lot of space named chocolate. Never mind. There's probably nothing to that. Probably. So then they go to get something from the food trays, and all the food is spoiled.
Yep. It's all gone bad.
And John opens the refrigeration unit and just gets a whiff of something awful.
He's like, oh, no.
Nope. So he calls up Pilot to report another malfunction. And Pilot, who is in even more pain at this point, says, it's not a malfunction. He's seeing signs of internal sabotage. And then he collapses.
Yeah.
Pilot actually passes out, yeah. So, oh shit. That's not good.
Who's flying this thing now?
Who's flying this plane? So Aaron goes up to Pilot's chamber and reports that Pilot's vitals are extremely low. He's not doing too good.
Yeah, he's apparently nutrient deficient.
Yeah, because he has a symbiotic connection to Moya. He's plugged in effectively, and tendrils from his body go out throughout the ship, and he receives must receive a nutrient supply from Moya herself, which is apparently being cut off at this point.
Yeah.
And every system has gone out of control. There are chemical surges all over the place. But actually, Aaron seems to understand some of Pilot's systems, because while this is all going crazy and the ship is rocking to and fro, Aaron is trying to get a hold of things, doesn't know what to do, but she pushes down one of the controls and seems to know what it does and stabilizes it and pushes another one and manages
The lights go on.
Yeah, and she seems to have some kind of understanding. Because...
I like that John rightfully points this out. Because last week, she had been injected with pilot DNA. So apparently there's still some lingering effect from that.
Yeah, because Zan says, well, it was all flushed out. And he says, well, was it?
I mean, even if it was all flushed out, there's probably a lot of information in her brain that hasn't completely gone, but even if genetically she's completely herself again.
But it sounds like she isn't, and there may be a small trace of pilot DNA inside of her, which apparently contains information about how to operate leviathans. So she can kind of pilot or control some of Moya's systems.
I mean, she only has 2 arms, but...
Yeah, so she can get it somewhat under control, but obviously you want to get pilot up and running again.
Yeah.
But one of the things she hasn't got under control is the environmentals, and the environmental systems are not working, and soon that means the air that they're breathing will run out.
Yeah. I mean, the air isn't being recycled anymore.
Yeah. There's no new air being pumped in, and Zan says what they're breathing is all they've got.
Yes. That's not good.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
It's really bad.
So far this episode, we haven't seen Rigel. And I was
going to say, 19 minutes. I checked. It takes 19 minutes for Rigel to show up.
I was wondering if maybe he was going to be maybe a bit absent this episode. But no. He turns up going through, in typical Rigel fashion, going through Dargo's stuff, because Dargo is still somewhat out of it and is lying down on his bed. Oh god, I love this scene
so much. I love this scene so much.
So he's going through Dargo's stuff, and Dargo wakes up and he grabs Rigel, puts him over his back, and seems to be trying to burp him or something. Like, that's what I got.
Oh no! Well, my response was because he wakes up and he's like, "Joffy, what are you doing, boy?" And I'm like, does he think Rigel is his dog? That was my first response.
Well, no, it then becomes clear that he thinks that Rigel is a child, and presumably his child.
Yeah. It's like...
Because he starts to say, well, what did I tell you about taking other people's stuff? And Rigel has no idea what the hell is going on.
Rigel is being like,
how dare you touch me in this way?
They're like, you are, Joffrey, you are so big. My size is never the discussion.
Apparently he's very sensitive about his weight.
I thought his length, actually, but you're right. It's even better.
And then, but he does figure out that it's like, you think I'm your son? Which, this is a new development, by the way. Like,
yeah, Dargo has a son?
Apparently, and a partner presumably a partner in Lowland, because that's what it seems to be implying.
The crew don't assume yet that these people are actually real, but it's pretty clear for us at this point.
Yeah, this is a part of Dargo's past that he has not talked about.
No.
And this is the first that we're hearing about it, apparently.
Also, there's one line in here I need to mention that... Dargo at some point says to Rigel, "Look, I know I've been talking about with your mother." And Rigel responds, "What about my mother?"
Oh, Rigel.
That response. I'm sorry.
It's so good, though.
It's a small thing, but I really like that. That's like, what are you talking about? What did you say about my mother?
It's okay. So we have all that. That's a lot of fun and that's enjoyable. But there is a bit more seriousness in this scene because Dargo, in talking to quote Jothi, or it's actually Rigel, says that when Jothi's mother's family first saw him, they despised him, but he says he loves his son and he always will.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was
Typical Romeo and Juliet, actually.
Yeah, something like that. That this seems to be a child born out of a marriage that some people certainly didn't want. So something is up here, but that will be resolved later.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Zan is finding the air is getting staler. There's, like we said, the environmentals are not working, and Pilot is nutrient starved. But it's not a virus. The stuff that was that they thought was a biomechanoid virus is not, in fact, a virus. They're no distinct organism. They're not separate from Moya. In fact, they're a part of Moya.
Yeah.
And they can't be fragments of something since they're all uniform in size. So they're not something that is broken off from Moya. It seems to be part of Moya's system.
Mm-hmm.
But to figure out what they need to do, then they have to go back to what Dargo saw before the accident, because that's when it all started happening.
Yeah, that's the source. That's where their answer should be.
And then they put a call through to Rigel, who is supposed to be looking after Dargo. And they think he's asleep initially, because he comes up on like the little holographic projector, covered in bed sheets or whatever. It's like, no, Dargo tucked me in.
Those are words we'll probably never hear again.
Yeah.
Dargo tucked me in. Wait, what?
And then he informs them that he thinks that he's Juffy and he's gone out looking for Lolan. So Crichton goes to find Dargo, which turns out may have been a mistake, because Dargo now thinks that Crichton is somebody called Macton.
Yeah, and he's apparently not friends with Macton. He's actually quite angry at Macton.
Really doesn't like Macton.
Ooh.
And Crichton is trying to figure out what he's actually talking about. So he asks, "Who's Lolan?"
And this makes him angrier.
Wrong question, because Dargo says you may despise me for marrying your sister. So okay, Lolan is Macton's sister, and he didn't want her to marry him.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't mock her by pretending to forget her. So he sees it as an insult. But Crichton is trying his best to get through to Dargo. It's like, no, it's Crichton, it's not Macton. And briefly he manages to. And Dargo is, another bit of acting from this, that he's clearly trying to fight or to remember what happened, because it's causing him distress to recognize Crichton, apparently.
We'll figure out later where there's actually a beautiful line in this episode that completely encompasses why Dargo is like this right now, but for now it's like recognizing John and being in the present really upsets him. Yeah,
it takes a lot of effort, but he's trying to get across something, and again Anthony Simcoe does a great job of like acting in this, and it's really good to see Dargo as someone who isn't just gruff and angry all the time.
Yeah, he's getting a much needed deepening of his character.
Yes, but he manages to get out that he was in a shaft and he saw a peacekeeper shield, but then he goes straight back to addressing Crichton as Macton.
Yeah.
And how dare you dishonor your own sister even though she's dead. And he breaks down in tears again.
Again, the ugly sob.
Yeah, God.
I mean, at this point, we know what Lolan apparently means to Dargo. We know that she's a real person, and now we know that she's dead. Oh.
And she is presumably, the mother of his child. And
probably.
Well,
technically, it hasn't been stated.
Yeah, but
very likely at this point.
No. So he actually kind of assaults Crichton a little bit and throws him back. And
can I just say, actually, that the audio cue that they use for these scenes with Dargo, beautifully placed.
Oh yeah, there's I guess it's flute type music in the background when he's in that space of like being in the past, apparently.
It's very subtle, but I like when they underscore these kinds of moments with a proper bit of music. Yeah,
and these are emotional moments with some very nice soft music that really helps set the scene.
Yeah.
So Crichton's going to go find the shaft where Dargo was, because he's managed to get that out of him, and he was on, I think they say, tier 21.
Yeah.
So he heads down there and is going to go look for what Dargo found, and all the lights in the section go out.
And we get a beautiful bit of light comedy, and light as in literally light. Because John is using his big flashlight, and at some point it turns off, and he's like, oh, he starts smacking it, looking into it, and then it turns on again. It's like, oh.
John, you idiot.
Okay. And I gotta say, Ben Browder's expression at this point is beautiful. He sells that one marvelous.
I mean, I don't know how much of that was acting, because he did actually literally shine it into his own eyes.
I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't as much acting as we'd like to think. I wouldn't be surprised if that was something he improv'd on the spot.
It could well have been. Like, maybe that prop wasn't working properly or something, but it is really funny.
Yeah.
And then he sees a couple of DRDs hanging around, and they're blocking the passage.
I like these DRDs. I just realized they're like, bro, you don't want to be in this neighborhood, bro.
You came to the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
Yeah.
If they had little flick
Get
knives,
out.
they would have got them out at this point.
Exactly. That's the look they give John's like,
Back off, man. Back off. So they're blocking off the section, so he has to find another way through, and Aaron tells him to go down a different corridor. Mm-hmm. And again, cornered by more DRDs.
yeah, two on the ceiling, being like, hey, bro, where you going?
So when he found the first few DRDs, he describes it as like a Yosemite Sam cartoon of like dark cave where eyes light up.
Yeah, like four of them.
4 of them. Except, well, I mean, that doesn't really happen in that scene because he just sees the DRDs. The next bit where he sees an entire wall covered in DRDs,
Like
that exact
ceiling, walls, floor,
They're like-
everything.
that exact thing happens where they're all in darkness and then the eyes light up all one by one.
That was such a cool scene. I really like that one, actually. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very much curious how they got all those lights on, because apparently I wouldn't be surprised if most of those aren't actual DRDs, like not the movable ones.
My suspicion is that they probably don't have that many DRD props. Certainly not as many as are all on that wall.
No.
They probably have a much smaller number. So what it might have been would have been some compositing of many different shots
Oh, yeah.
of DRDs with lighting and all
Yeah.
merged together
As long
to do
I mean,
that.
as long as you have the camera set, you can
Yes.
easily do that.
And the camera doesn't move on that shot
No,
either. So
in that shot, it's completely still. So that I think you might be right on that one.
that's my
The
hunch.
effect is amazing.
It's really good. Like it is exactly that thing that he describes of like the eyes lighting up in the darkness, but it is really good. And so this is when they get their guns out and start shooting at him, so he runs away.
At this point, I realized, holy crap, DRDs are awesome.
Yeah, they can apparently just shoot adhesive gunk at people. They have laser guns.
They have like these little guns that come out, and they're basically like miniguns spinning,
Yeah,
tiny spinning guns, and like shooting huge laser bolts out of it.
and they can climb up the walls and stick to surfaces. Yeah, they can do a whole load of things. But
Yeah.
John has to make a hasty retreat while yelling at Aaron to shut down the DRDs.
Yeah.
Because he dives underneath one of the small access hatches and comes out the other side, eye level on the ground, with some more DRDs who bring their guns out and point them at him.
And they're like, bro, you shouldn't have come here. We're gonna kill you now.
So-
We're gonna cap your ass.
So he tells Aaron to shut down all the DRDs, all of them, because you can't shut them down individually.
No.
Which means that some of her systems will be affected, but she shuts them all down, and he manages to get away. Whew. And then we have the scene with Zahn, Aaron, and Crichton all sitting around a table
Yeah.
discussing what to do. This scene has a really interesting bit of editing in it.
I was gonna ask you about that, because I saw the scene as well, and I'm not entirely sure if I liked it or not.
Yeah, it was a little bit odd because we do like a tracking shot around the table, or we do close-ups of all three as they discuss what to do. When it cuts between the three of them, like the camera is panning across them in the close-up, and it cuts to another one with a fade.
Yeah,
And
it's the
it's-
fade I'm not sure about.
Yeah, so typically when you do a fade like that, particularly in a bit of dialogue, it usually implies that time is passing. It's most typically used in like a scene which would be a really long conversation, and you want to jump ahead to a forward bit. So you do they keep talking, and then there's a fade, and then you fade back in with them later on talking about something else. It's just a way to show that time is passing. Because if you do a quick cut, it can get confusing. But the fade is most typically used for that. Here it doesn't, which is what confused me. It's used for the same purpose as if you just had 3 static shots of close-ups of Zan, Eren, and Crichton, and cut between them as they were all talking. Except in this case, the close-ups track left to right or side to side on each of them, like it's rotating around the table, and there's a fade in between shots. It's an interesting bit of editing, and I'm not sure if I like it too much because it implies an effect that isn't strictly necessary.
I mean, there's one other form I've seen it used, I think, and that's when you're going for a very sinister setting.
Yeah, or something...
like something very dark, I guess, being discussed. But that wasn't happening in the scene either.
No.
So that didn't make sense at all. I mean, even the lighting screamed that. Yet the scene itself wasn't.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're discussing what to do. Are the DRDs affected by what they've been calling the virus, which is not a virus, but they're totally mechanical, so they can't be. They only do what somebody tells them to do. And Pilot's unconscious, so it must be Moya doing all of this, because Moya has her own autonomy. Basically, what pilots do not strictly control Leviathans.
No.
They tell them what to do, and the Leviathan does it if they agree with it. Like, most of the time they'll do what they're told because they'll be... But
it's mostly in their own interest.
Yeah, but it's entirely possible for a Leviathan to refuse to do something or to do something on their own.
And actually thinking about that, it's quite out of character for Moya to disobey, because she basically landed on a goddamn planet for them.
Yeah, exactly. And they removed the control collar from her and have been liberated her from the peacekeepers. So yeah, they really don't know what's going on. But like you said, it's not like a conspiratorial thing.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a scene later on where this would have worked perfectly fine, but not for this scene.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I wonder if when they shot this scene, if a part of the conversation that we'll get to later, it was also in here.
Yeah, there might have been a different version of this scene where it would have been more effective. It's not even bad. It's not bad editing. It's a good. It's well done.
Well edited.
It's well edited. I don't think it's the appropriate style for this.
It feels out of place.
Yeah, exactly. Because you would expect it to be for, like you said, either a more conspiratorial, darker tone, or for a much longer conversation and passage of time, which is not what's being shown.
No.
So that was weird. That was weird. But anyway, they realized that everything that's been going on has not been an external force. It's not been a virus or anything like that. It's been Moya doing this herself, doing everything from stopping the environmentals and cutting off Pilot's nutrients. So what the hell is going on? What's Moya doing?
Why now?
Yeah, and so they're going to set up some readouts on the floor to try and ascertain, what systems are affected or what's been going on. They have actually acetate printouts, basically, of Moya's systems. That's what they are.
I know they are, and to be completely honest, when I saw these things, I was like, "Oh, look, they got the local art department to pitch in again." Because these things make no sense at all to me from where I was standing. Really,
I mean, they don't look like diagrams that we would recognize.
No,
John has no idea. I'm surprised that John seems to at least partially understand some of them. But
I mean, I guess having lived on Moya for at least this period, he has some frame of reference for them.
Yeah. So what they do is they lay them out on the floor, and Zan said, "Well, can we bring this up on the screens or whatever?" He says, "Well, no, we can't let Moya know what we're doing."
Yeah, because if we go to her database, she can basically see oh, they're looking up that data. Oh, they're planning that. Well, I can do that then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I found it weird that Moya will discover them that way, but apparently Moya can't actually just hear what they're talking about. Oh no, but it's because
he actually mentions it because John says well, you don't know what bacteria in your body is doing unless you experience symptoms. Yeah. And without the DRDs, she doesn't have any eyes inside of herself.
and Pilot's not there to translate as well.
Exactly.
So
that would also make sense. And I like that Zan at this point says like, "Well, I don't have any bacteria in my body."
I assume she means like internal, like we have inside our gut, like floral bacteria in there. Apparently, her species doesn't have that. So
yeah, and well, the other part was me like, wait, you don't have like bacteria you get sick from? Does nobody get sick around here?
Apparently not. I don't know. Maybe Luxons get sick. We haven't found out yet. Something's clearly wrong with Dargo.
Yeah. Okay.
But speaking of Dargo, he has at this point brought Rigel to command where everyone else is, and so they're going to try and get to the bottom of what's been going on here.
Yeah. So basically, John contacts Rigel, being like, "What's going on? I'm getting a piggyback ride."
Oh yeah, I forgot he's going to piggyback.
Well,
ride.
see if you can get a ride back up to command, because we want to talk to Dargo.
Yeah, and so he does manages to convince him to go up to command somehow. So everyone is there. We've got Aaron Aaron is with Pilot, and we've got Zan and Crichton, who remember that Dargo thinks that Zan is Lolan, and he thinks that Crichton is Macton.
And that Rigel is Joffy.
Yes.
Also important.
Yeah. And so he comes into command and sees Zan and refers to her as Lolan, and he says he loves her more all the time, and
then he straight kisses her on the mouth.
Yeah. And Zan seems to be kind of into it, and isn't
I love Rigel being like,
Rigel seems to be, well, he seems to like to watch.
Into it.
Yeah, I think he probably enjoys watching this a little too much.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like voyeuristic Rigel's in my notes. I'm like,
and she says, but Dargo says to Lolan, quotes, asks her how she could give up everything to be with them. But Zan is trying to use this connection to get Dargo to come to his senses and help their ship. But he says, well, I destroyed our ship, so they couldn't trace us here. And then Crichton decides to start acting his part.
Yeah, I really like this. That he steps in and is like, Dargo, what are you doing with my sister? Basically.
Mm-hmm. Keep your hands off my sister. I reject Dargo and your marriage. And you cower from her memory, and you're not worthy of her.
Yeah, this is actually the part where I really like, because you're not worthy of her because you cower of her memory. And this is where John is basically blending the two, because what he's saying as Macton is basically also what he's saying as John, being like, you're not remembering how this ends. You're a coward for not facing that.
Yeah.
And what he says, Dargo then says, I don't want to remember.
But he says Lolan's memory burns in his soul.
Yeah.
She's dead, but he doesn't want to remember.
No, he doesn't want to remember that she's dead because it hurts too much.
And again, we have to say this again, I think, because Anthony Simcoe as Dargo, just this whole scene is amazing.
Nails this one.
Nails it.
My favorite scene of the episode.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's so well done. You can really see... And being able to get that much emotion through that much prosthetic, he's covered with he's got a full beak-like nose and hair and beard and tentacles and eyebrow ridges, but you can see the emotion and he's got tentacled chin. It's you can see
it's a whole thing.
The hurt and the pain and how much it hurts him, and it's so well done. Really great performance.
He a lot in his voice as well.
Oh yeah, his voice. Oh, so well done. Such a good job, and really have to take your hat off to him. So good. But yeah, he doesn't want to remember Lolan. No. And then he attacks Crichton, saying that you killed her to keep her from me. He never had the chance to tell Jotham why he and Lolan left their world.
Yeah, and I love that Zan at this point realizes, wait, he killed his own sister?
Yeah, because he so hated that she had married Dargo, and Dargo had to send Jotham away because he was charged with her murder.
Yeah.
And that is when that's the twist, that's the reveal, so to speak.
Yeah,
he got Jotham away before he was arrested.
Mm-hmm. And I like that he turns to Rigel and actually talks to Jotham and tells him, that he was never able to tell him why he had to send him away and why it was necessary to protect him in this way, and that he would only know if his precautions worked if he saw him alive again.
Yeah.
And that was the part that broke me.
Yeah, because, oh god, throughout this whole scene I was like, oh, no. Like, it really got to me. And, yeah, he was arrested for the murder of his wife, which he didn't commit, and had to send his son away because...
Protect it from his
brother-in-law,
basically?
Yeah, basically. Because if that's what he did to Lolan, he would probably do worse to their son.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't... And so Dargo has a son out there, and he has no idea if he's safe or not.
These are the things that always I find very strong. Choosing the two of lesser evils, and the lesser still being horrible. Basically sending your son away to possibly never see him again.
Well,
just to save his life.
Well, remember what he said? That's what he said in the last episode. Remember when Zan asked him... a couple of episodes ago, in fact, in that old Black Magic, if you had to, stop one evil by unleashing a smaller one, and he says, "I would choose the lesser of two evils."
I hadn't even realized that.
I just realized that now as I'm thinking about it. But yeah, this is something apparently he's been living with, and seems to be the crime for which he was imprisoned.
Yeah.
Not killing a superior officer, like he said.
Killing his wife.
Which he did not do. And there is yet one further twist to be had.
Yes, because John points out, apparently the arrest for that murder was done by said brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Still with the blood of his sister's hands on him.
Yeah, so wait, he was arrested by Macton.
Yeah.
But Crichton remembers, wait, you were arrested by a peacekeeper. I thought you were arrested by peacekeepers. And Dargo says, yeah, it was quite a coup for them. And then that's when the penny drops. Macton was a peacekeeper. And if Macton was a peacekeeper, so was Lolan.
Yep. So
Jothi is a peacekeeper Luxon hybrid, and holy shit.
Yeah, and he actually, what I really like, he takes something out of, I guess, a wound or something.
Yeah, like there's a
spot
little
in his skin, close to his heart.
If you assume that the Luxon heart
I
is
don't
where...
care. I don't care if that's what...
Yeah, all right.
That's where his heart is, period.
Okay.
And he takes out a small cylinder, it looks like, and he releases it, and it produces a holographic image of Lolan and their son Jothi.
And, yeah, Lolan is, of course, a peacekeeper Sabatian woman, and there's a small child Jothi with tentacle hair and all of the same stuff that identifies him as part Luxon, and he's just doing this he wrenches it out of him. It's clearly like sewn into his skin, and it's been carrying it with him this whole time. And holy shit.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and his memory is back. He's back to himself, but
he doesn't like it, but he is.
But he's revealed this truth about himself to everyone else. Oh God,
this is a heavy scene.
Yeah,
this is twist on twist on twist, and they're all gut punches. Really,
it does so much to take Dargo from just the angry barbarian warrior race guy to a much more complex and deeper character.
Yeah, I can imagine where that anger comes from now.
Yeah, and why he had to hide his crime, because being in a relationship or having a child with a peacekeeper, I can't imagine that would go down well with other people in a peacekeeper ship.
If any of the guards found out, they would have killed him.
Yeah,
on the spot. So
that's why he had to lie about the crime that he was imprisoned for. And there's so much more to him now. Like there's this big backstory that is much more than just, I'm angry and I killed my superior officer or something.
No, he didn't.
It really does a lot for Dargo's character, and
yes,
it's really effective. And I was, lower lip trembling at the end of the scene. Like,
I don't experience. Sadly I don't experience emotions that strongly, which I'm
a massive crybaby.
Yeah, and I wish I was sometimes. I really do. It happens to me once in a while, but it needs to be very heavy. And usually, actually, more cheerful.
Fair enough.
I'll cry at beautiful things. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, but Dargo's memory has returned. This has all been revealed. It's really heavy. And actually, you see a shot of Zan crying from this.
Mm-hmm.
You see a tear roll down her cheek, and they're all shocked by what's happened. So now we have. Oh god. Okay, if one heavy scene wasn't enough, here's some more, because in order to try and fix stuff, what they've decided to do is they have to shut down Moya's higher brain functions.
Yeah, basically.
They have to, basically, in order for them to survive, they have to give Moya a lobotomy. That's what it is. There's
no.
There's no
I mean, to be completely fair, what they plan to do first is just shut it down and see if they can bring it back up later.
Yeah.
But they quickly realize that the only way they can do this is they sever the connection permanently, and that's the point where I'm like, so you're lobotomizing Moya.
Yeah, they say it'll be similar to when the control collar was on, except it'll be done permanently because the physical connections will have been severed. So yeah, if they don't
interesting
do this,
questions. Why don't the peacekeepers just do that?
maybe I assume the control collar does more than that.
Yeah, probably. And having her higher functions probably has advantages as well.
Yeah, exactly. Higher functions allow better control of everything, I would assume.
I guess.
So yeah, they have to do this. So you get Aaron has to do it in Pilot's chamber, and that's the easiest access for them is to go through a console in Pilot's chamber. So she gets a cutting torch laser thing ready to go.
Yeah, but they do want to give another plan also a chance, and that is to figure out what is causing all this, the source of it,
Yes.
which Dargo found, and see if they can stop it from there. Because
Yeah,
if they can do that, they don't have to basically lobotomize Moya.
So yeah, because Dargo has regained his memories, he is able to lead them to where he found the thing. And the reason they didn't find it is because, as we saw, the DRDs repaired over the access hole that he went through to get into the access tunnel where the thing was.
Yeah, and I like that Dargo's like, oh, they must have sealed it up. Kick, hole and roll.
And so Crichton is getting ready to go in, and he's actually done up in a kind of like a black spacesuit with a helmet. Because
I'm wondering if that is his original spacesuit or Aaron's.
It's probably Aaron's, because his spacesuit had a white helmet and was more like a fighter pilot helmet. It wasn't a full cover. So it's probably the suit from Aaron's Prowler to some extent. And he's going in there with a limited supply of oxygen because they don't have much, and there isn't. I think the idea is that some parts of it have been the oxygen has been taken out of, or it's stale, or it's not breathable because it's all filled up with CO2 or whatever.
I could imagine also that because Dargo blew himself out of the ship, there's probably a hole down there.
Oh yeah, probably. It's probably open to
the hard vacuum of space.
Yeah, that sounds bad. So John is going down the. Actually, can we talk a bit about the set of these sets going through Moya? They're not just like circular tunnels. They look more like a negative of a vertebrae.
Yeah. Actually, that was what I was thinking about as well.
So they sort of splay out at the bottom, and then they come in with a little bit at the top. If you look at like a vertebrae, that's the shape of the hole that extends
the tunnel
of the access, or the sort of bowels of the ship, or the technical bits and pieces. So that's what John is going through, and he finds the panel where Dargo initially found stuff, and then he finds another one.
Yeah, and the other side of that second panel, there's an opening, and he's like, what's this? And he goes in.
So while he's doing this, Aaron is basically starting to cut through the cables to get to the higher functions.
Yeah.
And John emerges into a chamber.
Not unlike the one Pilot lives in.
Yeah, it actually looks fairly similar, but there is covered in DRDs for one thing. Mm-hmm. And there's something glowing or in the center of it that is connected by cabling and tubing going up into Moya.
Uh-huh.
And then Crichton asks Zan, do you know anything about leviathan physiology?
Specifically reproduction.
He's like, what do you mean? Because he reckons this. You know what this all is? Moya is pregnant.
How the hell does he come to that conclusion? No, seriously.
Yeah, that's a bit of a leap for John.
This could have been a kidney stone for all he knew.
Yeah, I think it's probably because it seemed like there were cables going into it from Moya, like an umbilical cord or something.
Yeah, probably. Still, I wouldn't have jumped to that conclusion right away.
But also the fact that Moya seems to be doing all of this intentionally.
Yeah, that might be good.
But it is kind of a bit of a leap. But he figures that the particles that they released that were held back by the Peacekeeper shield were a catalyst for pregnancy, and everything since then has been Moya protecting herself.
Okay, remember how I pointed out that Dargo was basically covered in that stuff?
Yeah.
That was relevant? Dargo was covered in leviathan semen.
I don't know that that's...
I'm pretty sure... What else would it have been?
It could have been...
Like, I know it's a catalyst, but I'm assuming leviathans need to be impregnated by some other creature.
Possibly. We don't know, actually. Like, at this point, we have no idea. They could go through parthenogenesis. Like, sharks can do that occasionally. Like, they may not need another leviathan to reproduce. They may do. It may be what you said, or it could just be a chemical that induces the pregnancy.
But let's be honest. Let's hope it's my version because it's way funnier.
Okay, fine. Fine, let's go with that. But yeah, from the sounds of it, it's interesting to me because the Peacekeepers... I don't know, like the Peacekeepers stopped this pregnancy, or holding back this pregnancy, but they didn't stop it. They were just delaying it. I mean, they clearly did a number on Moya. They installed a whole bunch of things, so they could have potentially stopped the whole thing from happening at all ever.
I don't know if it's that simple. I mean,
no,
how much?
How
much would you have to remove from Moya to prevent that, and what would that do to her?
Yeah,
there's probably a lot of variables, and it's easier to just put a plug in it and
not worry about it. Yeah. Okay, fair.
Which they pretty much did.
But yeah, Moya is apparently actually pregnant, and the DRDs were protecting their fetus, but the DRDs are off, and the baby needs them.
Yeah, and probably also because the DRDs were feeding. Attaching the fetus to Moya.
Yeah, or maintaining it in some way. And God, this is the really tense bit because Aaron is almost done with the procedure, and like there's one more thing to cut, and that will be it, and there'll be no more higher brain functions for Moya.
Yeah.
And John is trying to tell her to stop and to turn the DRDs back on over a bad signal.
Again, read between the goddamn lines, people. Because there's enough there to figure out that he wants you to stop. Or just stop and listen.
Yeah, so it's a really tense thing, because it's like, no, shut it off, because otherwise Moya will be... You'll do that. And eventually he is able to get through, and Aaron stops just short of doing it, but they came that close to lobotomizing Moya.
Yeah. And like this, she's like, okay, fine, I'll stop.
Yeah, she's
she's been ordered around this entire episode most of the time, especially since she's in that room.
Yeah. So, yeah, she puts they call it a saw, but it's like a laser gun kind of thing.
A laser saw.
Laser saw, but she puts it down, and Crichton is standing in the chamber with the baby, and, because... Without Pilot to translate, there isn't usually a direct way to talk to Moya.
No. Only through Pilot do they have that option.
But he's going to try something, so once the DRDs turn back on, they sort of turn towards him and raise their weapons.
One minor point. I like that, again, he's like, oh crap, the baby needs the DRDs. Aaron, turn the DRDs back on! And Aaron's like, fine. Quit ordering me around, you asshat.
Yeah. But yeah, the DRDs then corner him, and he puts the weapon down, sort of raises his hands, and then he talks directly into the DRD, trying to communicate with Moya,
trying to say, like, look, we never want to hurt you, we don't want to hurt the kid, and we are very happy for you that you're pregnant.
But
do we need to die for this?
Yeah, do we need to die for your baby to survive? And there's this pause, and then the DRD's back off, and the atmosphere whooshes back, and everything. Everything's okay.
I find it very smart of John to put down the gun.
Yes.
In front of her, even if she wasn't able to understand a word he just said, his body language and especially him putting down the gun was probably enough for her to figure out what he was trying to get across.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, he's put it down, and everything has turned back to normal relatively.
Mm-hmm.
And so later on, we see that Pilot is back up and back to his normal self. By the way, didn't mention this at the start. His limb has grown back. He has all his limbs in this episode.
Yeah, that's he has all 4 back again. Interesting how the episode doesn't actually go on from the fact that they've basically been monsters towards Pilot, and suddenly they're concerned about him.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd that it's not brought up at the moment.
That's my ranty bit for this episode. Like, they do reference back to it with Aaron having all those memories, but apparently the fact that they chopped off his goddamn arm
doesn't get brought up again. Doesn't get brought up again. Yeah, it's a little.
That's actually one of the biggest marks against this episode. That gets forgotten.
Yeah, it is weird that it just gets brushed off so easily.
Yeah.
But,
I thought it would have had a real impact and showing how desperate these people are, and the only thing I want to do is lobotomize Moya, which...
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just not up there with cutting off a friend's arm.
Well, they're trying to lobotomize a ship they can't talk to, and who's only trying to protect her baby.
Yeah,
so
that's true, but they didn't.
It's
know
not a
all
good
those
thing.
Parts, but
yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Pilot was actively saying him don't.
Yeah, this is true. Like, Pilot was also not privy to what Moya was doing. Like, Moya was doing all of this without telling Pilot either.
Yeah, that actually gets brought up because John asked, like, how can Moya do this without your permission? It's like, look, I don't command Moya. I sort of work for her.
Yeah.
More or less.
Basically, yeah, he works for Moya as a go-between between her and the crew.
Yeah.
Basically.
And, I mean, she has her own will if she wants to do something, and he can't really stop her.
No. He can do what he can, which is what he was trying to do, but ultimately she can just, like she did, cut off his nutrients.
And just do whatever she pleases.
And so the crew ask him, well, how long, what can we expect, because this pregnancy is a thing now, and how long is it going to take, what things can we look forward to? And Pilot has no idea.
Yep.
I thought it was
big surprise.
It's a bit odd to me that he says he has no special knowledge of the Leviathan gestation cycle, because wait, aren't you bonded to Moya permanently?
On the other hand, did Moya's mother or father or parent give her the talk about the birds and the bees?
Maybe it's something they're just born with. I don't know. It might just be more instinct.
I was going to say, birds don't get the talk about the birds and the bees, mostly because half of that isn't relevant for them. But, I mean, and still, they seem to figure it out every season.
But yeah.
Every year, sorry.
But I still find it odd that Pilot doesn't know anything about the gestation cycle of Leviathans.
To be completely fair, we have had mentioned that Pilot doesn't know as much as he's usually.
That's true, actually. Yeah, he doesn't have access to all of Moya's database.
No,
so
I think this is one of the expressions of that.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. So they're going to find out together, and so are we.
Boy, always fun having a Leviathan, baby. You never know what to expect.
Nothing can possibly go wrong.
It will. Let's be honest. I don't know if it will, but it will.
So that's not quite where the episode ends. We have a little bit further to go. So in all of this, we've seen that those emotional scenes with Dargo, we had Zan, we had Crichton, and we had Rigel, but Erin wasn't really part of that.
No, she was busy in Pilot's seat.
Yeah, but at the end, she goes to see Dargo, who's in his quarters, and he's really upset. He's still dealing with what just happened and what he was remembering. And he actually thanks her for saving his life when he was out in space, because she went and got him in her prowler. And in all the confusion, she'd almost forgotten that she'd even done that.
Yeah.
And she asks what was the name of Lolan's brother, and he tells her Macton Tar, and she does not know who that is.
No,
so.
it doesn't ring a bell. And she asks then if she can see the woman.
Yeah.
Lolan.
So he gets out the hologram again and shows her. It's the same one we saw before of them, of Lolan and Jothi rotating around, and she says, yeah, she's very beautiful, and Dargo says, are you surprised that someone like that could love someone like him? And then we get some more Peacekeeper backstory, because it's apparently ingrained in Peacekeepers from birth to keep bloodlines pure, and such unions are evil. So,
yes. And then Dargo says, so my son is evil? And I like what she says then, because she says, when I look into his eyes, I see you, so no. It's not evil.
Oh, the scene, though.
And she adds, I promise you, no matter what happens, I will never tell anybody about your son.
Oh, this is so good.
It's so good. It's such a beautiful bonding scene for those two.
It is, and probably one of the most important bonding scenes that certainly to my mind, because in the earlier episodes, the two people who were very much at each other's throats were Eren and Dargo.
Yeah, but they also had that...
I mean, they have that mutual understanding of both being warriors.
Exactly. I like that bit. The fact that there's some sort of playful rivalry between them.
Yeah, but early on he was still very distrustful of her because she was a peacekeeper and she didn't. So he was just a Luxon brute, but now it seems like they really are true friends.
Yeah,
and that's just such a beautiful thing to see at the end of the episode, and it really hits heavily. It's just like, oh, it's so my emotions. No, stop. And that's where we end.
Yes.
I'll say that the credits music for Farscape, which we use at the beginning of the episode and at the end of each of these, it's very sort of heavy and like da 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 da. It's very, which is a little bit weird coming off such a emotional scene.
Yeah, I wish they'd gone with the approach TV shows sometimes use in varying your credits song a little bit. They should have used the Dargo's cue. That's what I was thinking as well. They should have used that as the exit music.
That would have been really
play
cool.
it. You don't need the regular music for that one.
But no, they just go with the normal thing. So there we go. Yeah. That was They've Got a Secret. Whew. What do we think?
It's a heavy episode.
That is pretty heavy, and a lot has been revealed. We've got Dargo's past. We know that Moya is pregnant. Mm-hmm. Like, whoa.
I mean, I really like the scenes with Dargo.
Yes, they are absolutely the best.
Those are the highlights.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what I think about the rest.
I
might still be a bit sour over last week.
Yeah, that's fair.
Might be a thing.
I think the rest was fine. It wasn't. It was. The rest was fine, but it was not up to the same caliber as all that stuff with Dargo. No. And we've got that thing of Moya's pregnant, which is something that will have to...
Will be relevant later.
Yeah, because...
pregnant by something that is completely uniform and symmetrical.
It's weird.
That one probably won't be relevant either.
So yeah, but I thought this was really good episode, and I love it again that we're moving from, or at least partially, we're getting... This isn't just a straight up adventure episode or stuff happening. This is a hell of a lot of character development.
Yes.
Like a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
For Dargo, and to a lesser extent, I think, for Pilot and Eren a little bit, because the relationship between her and Dargo.
Yeah, but I think it's mostly it's Dargo. This is very much a Dargo episode.
Yeah. So yeah, I think... Oof.
I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. But...
yeah.
I am wondering if I want to change last week's grade.
What did you give last week's?
I think I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
I think I might want to go back to a 3.
Okay.
But the problem is that one of the most important parts of the last episode doesn't get brought up again. And I'm afraid we're just going to...
No.
I'm afraid we're just going to forget that bit again, and it's never going to come up. So I think I'm going to wait a few more weeks.
Yeah.
But if the whole arm scene doesn't actually change the dynamic of the show, if that episode doesn't change the dynamic of the show significantly, and that they're more distrustful of each other, then I think I'm going to have to go back and give last week's episode a lower grade, because it sets up an impact that it doesn't deliver on.
Okay, well,
in that case,
I guess we'll wait and see. Yeah, maybe it will come up again. But yeah, who knows? We'll have to see in the future. But I would agree that this was, I would say 4 out of 5 seems about right. And just phenomenal acting from Anthony Simcoe as Dargo.
No, seriously, he jumped up as... I appreciate him a lot more in that role.
Yes, definitely. And I'm excited to see more of that side of Dargo. I want to see more of that.
Yes, please. Give me more of that. That's my jam.
So much jam. But that's...
everywhere.
But that'll be it from us this week. And yeah, thanks for listening. And next week we'll be back, obviously, with the next episode, which is Till the Blood Runs Clear.
That sounds like another Dargo episode, because that's what you need to do for Luxon's wounds to heal.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. It's some things happen, and some people are coming to collect the Peacekeeper bounty on everybody's head.
Ooh.
So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But that's it from us this week. I've been Carl Hats, and
I have been Red Nightmare,
and
as always.
This episode and all other episodes of the Farscape Rewatch podcast are brought to you by the Can't Wear Hats Patreon. That is patreon.com/can'twearhats, which supports this podcast and other projects such as Twitch streams and other videos, and you can find all the information about what I do on there. That's patreon.com/can'twearhats. If you want to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter @can'twearhats and @Vidalcanintree.
Yes.
Or leave a comment on our YouTube, on the Can't Wear Hats YouTube page, which has previous episodes and stream archives. Yep. Again, youtube.com/can'twearhats. And
I check those comments every week.
Yeah.
I watch the episode. I listen to the sound of my own voice, okay? Just because I want to hear if I can improve.
Listen, I have to edit these things. I have to listen to both our voices all the time.
You get used to it, I've noticed.
Yeah. Yes, I've stopped cringing whenever I hear myself.
Yeah, I did a lot of video editing. I've gone over that part.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll be back next week with Till the Blood Runs Clear. But until then, that's it from us this week. So goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
So, Hats, we're going to Moya's baby shower. What the hell are we bringing?
We could get like a pacifier with an asteroid.
Oh, yeah, that might be an idea. I was thinking of My First Shuttle.
That could be good. Oh, okay. Do we know a tailor who can make a onesie several hundred meters long?
No.
Shit.